Love is Letting Go of Fear by Gerald, Jampolsky, MD. This book was first published in 1979, and Jampolsky would have been getting up there in years. He was born in 1925, in California, and was a psychiatrist in his adult life, or is a psychiatrist. And he went through the usual traumas that most people go through in their lives, and in order to combat some of the things he was experiencing and feeling, he sought some solutions, and one of those was A Course in Miracles. Now that was written over a long period of time, from the mid-60s through to the early 70s, and it was put together by Helen Schucman and Bill Thetford and Kenneth Wapnick. They were all involved in it, but I believe Helen was the key instigator of it. That book was published in 76. Jampolsky picked it up, read it, and his life changed. And he went on to write this book based on The Course in Miracles, which is why it has 12 lessons, they're called, in the contents there, which are quotes from A Course in Miracles. Now this book is, as in Course in Miracles, has religious overtones, spiritual overtones, and so take that as you like. But the book itself here is much more practical, tries to give you day-to-day things to think about and do in order to get your life under your control. Love is letting go of fear. Now, let's go into the book quickly. As you can see, I've got some tabs here. I may not use all of them, but there's 3 parts of this book here, and these first 2 and this third one here, which is only a couple of pages, these all 3 take up nearly a third of this book. Just getting started, as it were. Preparation for personal transformation. Ooh, big word. Ingredients of personal transformation. Now that's a lot of setup in this book for let's get past the forward and introduction. So there we go. Let's get to one of the tabs. Talks about replaying the past. Now this has been covered in by other psychiatrists and people in this field. Playing tapes in your head, and he's obviously wanting you to substitute the tapes in your head for love. It goes on here to say you're caught in the present by your past and the future. And what the idea is to get you into a position where you feel love, so the past and the future have no impact on you. So that's what he's trying to set up for you in his steps in this book to do that. There's a big emphasis on forgiveness and getting and giving. So I might cover that in a little bit more detail shortly, but as you can see, there's lots of graphics in here which do actually help you visually get to a point where you can perhaps understand what the message is that's in this book. Part 3, as you can see, is just how to proceed with the lessons. Then you go into the 12 lessons itself. Getting and giving. He wants you to practice giving, and you won't often. A lot of times you'll get back in terms of respect and courtesy and so forth, but sometimes you won't. And it's training yourself down these new pathways is what he's trying to get you to do. There you go, there's another visual there. Past and future is on. Can't, impossible, can't, impossible. And it's trying to use different words and to practice being a new person by using different words. And as we've come to learn in the self-help world that it takes about 30 days of practicing something before your brain will finally accept it as part of the new program, the new mantra in your mind, because this is very accurate about the past affecting the future. As you grow up, you experience traumas. Even in the simplest of households, the best of households, there are traumatic events. It's very rare that you get somebody who grows up without any trauma. So those traumatic events, which usually involve an event that gives you an emotional kick, may even hurt you, and has lots of audio and video input, that all anchors in your brain and creates feelings, and they stay with you for the rest of your life. And you can have various traumatic events and maybe similar ones. Maybe if you come from a household of abuse, then that's happening day after day after day, and it gets ingrained. Those tapes play when you're an adult, and it's hard to get to this position of love when you're constantly triggered off by events around you that are causing those feelings again. So he's trying to reprogram your brain with new words and so forth. That takes time. Sometimes you can tell a person that they're doing something crazy. They say, yes, got it, and they never do it again. But a lot of people are running on automatic. They don't even know they've got a problem. And when you talk to them about it, they go, huh? And they just don't see it. And this book tries to ease you into understanding that you need to do things to change your life. And yes, there's going to be triggers coming up from time to time. So the lessons, I can't really speak much to them. I haven't read the Course in Miracles, but I understand what it's about. All I give them to myself. So giving is the mantra here. Give, 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 and you'll get back the like. And that's true. But sometimes you're going to meet people who just take. So if you want those people in your life, then you're going to have to put up with giving to them and them taking. But my suggestion is you exclude those people from your life and find people who are like you are trying to be giving. Lessons, there we go. Lessons 2. Can we get to it? There's quite a bit on here too. Forgiveness is a key to happiness. Well, yeah. This one's hard. To me, forgiveness is a level above acceptance. Like in a grieving process, you go through 4 or 5 stages of bartering with yourself over anger and depression and so forth. And finally, you get to a level of acceptance. That's just saying that I accept what is, but it doesn't mean that you've given up any feelings about it. Forgiveness seems to be like a 6th step in the grieving process, where you now can understand the feelings and let them have no more impact on you. So now you've really cast off everything about whatever the event was that you're trying to forgive. It's a key to happiness. It is. I mean, once you can get to that point, it's not going to be easy, but you can get there. Never upset for the reason they think. It's an interesting lesson. Most of us have belief system based on experiences from the past and perceptions from physical senses, which is, very true. So sometimes you're upset about something, but it's probably because you've been triggered off in an event and you're not responding to the actual situation that's right in front of you at this moment. So there's 2 things going on, and you need to choose which one you're going to respond to. You can respond to the automatic response that's gone off in your head, the alarm bells that are reminding you went through something like this decades ago, or you're going to stand there and go, I am not going to buy into that. I'm going to do this anew. Let's see. Determined to see things differently, which is a good thing. It's not the world pushing your buttons. It's internally. You've got to look at the situation that's around you and not respond to it based on what happened in the past. This is hard to do. In my case, when I hit the realization I had to do something, I took 6 months off and sat in coffee shops and read books like this and just rebuilt myself, doing nothing. Because if I was doing something, it was probably going to be the wrong thing. So I stopped doing things and then just rebuilt things one at a time. So I encountered an event under a control condition and dealt with it in a different way and slowly rebuilt myself so that I was comfortable. When people start to try to do that, I can just put my hands on my hips instead and just cock my head sideways and just look at them and go, yeah. So it's hard to do even today. I mean, sometimes people who know you very well, who decide they want to push your buttons, will try their darndest to do so because they're dealing with something they can't take responsibility for. Attack thoughts. Yes, that's where you think that everything is against you and you feel you have to lash out at it, etc. That's needs to get a handle on that in your head. And not a victim of the world. See, yeah, that's true. You've got to overcome the victim mentality and be responsible for your actions. Of course, you've got to retrain yourself to respond appropriately to situations in the first place, which is a bit of a catch-22, but slow, short steps each time. Judging, yes, who isn't guilty of that? Today I will judge nothing that occurs. If you can get to that mindset, let me know how you do that. Dispassionate is good. I mean, a sociopath will be fine, but we're not. We're emotional beings, and we need to deal with situations as they come up. And judging is usually because of some past tape playing in your head that's getting in the way. But otherwise, you can probably look at the reality around you without judging it. This instance, the only time there is, and this is harping back onto the point that the past and the future are always there. If you've learnt through traumas a certain way to respond to situations in the now and in the future, the now may not work for you, and therefore you keep hitting the same barriers based on these tapes controlling your life. You start to think about the future and think how chaotic that's going to be because you haven't adapted and changed and grown a new set of beliefs in order to handle the future. So that gets to be scary. This has already been scaring the heck out of you. You're in the current, fearful of the future. There you go. It seems hopefully explain that fairly well. The past is over and it can't touch you. That's absolutely true. And of course, this lesson is trying to reinforce that, to give you some sort of peace of mind that it's done, it's gone. Bradshaw uses the inner child technique to go back and comfort your child and tell him as an adult, you're going to deal with this and you don't have to worry about it anymore. That works as well. I could see peace instead of this. Well, this one I have a little bit of a problem with. I could see peace instead of this. He's talking about happiness is up to us, whether we're happy or unhappy. When your vehicle breaks down, for example, do you get upset about it, or do you just go, oh yeah, it broke down, I can use a bike? This is it's a good place to try and be, but if somebody close to you just ups and dies, you're going to be unhappy about it, and no amount of this work is going to change that feeling, and you're just going to have to wallow in that feeling for a while until you can comfortably move past it. So you would be unhappy. So I don't think 100% happiness all the time is attainable. I think you're going to have events in your life that are going to stimulate you, and you should just accept that when you lose somebody or when you've had a big upset in your life, but not to have it record in your brain as being the be all and end all, and you don't want to experience that ever again, and da-da-da-da-da. These things happen. If you're changing your oil and keeping your tires inflated and putting your car in for services, this is not likely to happen. So even if it does, you won't get upset about it. If you're not looking after your car, and this happens to you every week or so, then you have a problem. Now, let's not go into monetary concerns here about getting your car maintained. We all know it's expensive. And this is an internal combustion engine. This may not even be relevant in 5 years. So that's close to the end here. I can elect to change all thoughts that hurt. Yes, again. Tony Robbins does a whole section on neuro-linguistic programming, which I find very fascinating. It's about talking about having a traumatic event in your life and overriding it with another event that is pleasant. So he uses a feeling and a physical anchoring. So you get into the state and you anchor that bad traumatic feeling, say to digging your nail into one finger on one hand, and you find a really pleasant event, and you do exactly the same with anchoring it with a finger on the other hand, and then you fire them off at the same time, and generally your brain will take the one it likes and the other one loses its power. I tried it. It seemed to work the times I tried it, and so this chapter is about electing to change the thoughts that hurt. You may not have to do that. You might be one of these people who can just understand in your brain the differences, and your brain just simply says, okay, I take the good thought over the painful one, and then the painful one loses its power over you. Lesson 12. I am responsible for what I see, which is just about looking at reality and not responding to the tapes in your head. It's a good book. Letting go of fear is not easy for anybody. This is another book in a series of books that have been over the years, been produced by Jampolsky, and this was one of his early ones. It's good, and it's certainly worth a read, and it doesn't take long to read. It's a very short book, and it should give you a good insight on how to have love in your life versus fear.